So the Miami Dolphins might already be in trouble because after trading away a key starter this offseason, multiple serious injuries have already hit that same position group, and it has to have some people wondering what the hell is going on with this team. Well, in today's video, I'll break that situation down, talk about the Bills and Ravens being able to breathe a sigh of relief after a couple of scares, Trey Hendrickson returning to Cincinnati to hold in, and more right after. Alright, first up, it looks like Ravens tight end Isaiah Likely may have suffered a more serious injury than we initially thought yesterday, although things don't look that bad, all things considered. After Likely was carted off the field, John Harbaugh told the media he just rolled his ankle and should be out for a few weeks. Well, after getting an MRI this morning, it turns out that Likely actually fractured his foot and is going to require surgery in order to get it fixed. His timeline to return now is about 6 weeks, with Ian Rappaport noting that depending on the outcome of the surgery, it could be even sooner. Honestly, for a broken foot that needs surgery, 6 weeks does seem like a quick comeback, but hopefully they're right because that would put him in line to be back for week 1. The quote-unquote good news for Baltimore, though, is even if Likely misses some time, they do still have Mark Andrews. His production has been down as he's battled through injuries of his own, but even during a down year, he still hauled in 11 touchdowns last season. Aside from Likely, another player on that Ravens offense to monitor is Zay Flowers. I don't think it's anything to panic over, but he reportedly was, quote, favoring something in his knee leg area at the end of yesterday's practice, then didn't participate in the final full team drills. He also didn't practice today either, but the good news here, at least in theory, is that John Harbaugh said after practice today that Zay is dealing with a minor camp type injury and should be back on the field in a few days. So I think that's a minor injury. Coaches are weird with their verbiage sometimes, but it seems like crisis was averted with Isaiah Likely, at least long-term, and then Zay Flowers as well. Now, something I am starting to get a bit concerned about is the Dolphins' secondary. Sadly, they lost another member of their defensive back room to a significant injury, this time being Kader Kohou. It's a partial ACL tear for Kohou that will require surgery to repair it. Another blow to the Dolphins' secondary that already lost corner Artie Burns to an ACL tear and is without safety Ashton Davis for the time being after he had a lower leg injury during practice yesterday. Thankfully, Mike McDaniel said today that he doesn't think Davis's injury is a season ender, but this news about Kader Kohou is a gut punch indeed. After trading away Jalen Ramsey, Kohou was the team's top corner heading into the season, but now that secondary is looking completely unrecognizable, at least compared to last year. Check this out. Their entire secondary from 2024 is now gone. Jalen Ramsey was traded, Kendall Fuller released, Kohou tore his ACL, Javon Holland signed with the Giants, and Jordan Poyer is still a free agent. Even though the team struggled as a whole last year with Tua missing time among other reasons, the secondary was a bright spot at times as they actually gave up the 10th fewest amount of passing yards and the second fewest yards per pass. Micah Fitzpatrick is back in Miami, which is great, and they did sign veterans Jack Jones and Mike Hilton a few days ago, so that will help for sure. That's a lot of turnover for that unit in one offseason, and I do have a lot of questions about their depth. And unfortunately, another starting cornerback was ruled out for the season today as Kevin Stefanski confirmed that Browns corner Martin Emerson Jr. did indeed tear his Achilles. That was the fear in Cleveland yesterday after he went down with a non-contact injury and had to be carted off. It really is a shame, too, because Emerson is set to become a free agent at the end of the season and was looking to ball out and get paid. So now we could see the Browns make a move for a veteran corner. There are still some decent options out there between Asante Samuel Jr. Injury concerns are there with him, though. Rasul Douglas, Stephon Gilmore, or even Kendall Fuller, whom I just mentioned. Now, another cornerback that we've been keeping tabs on is Bills rookie Maxwell Hairston. During practice yesterday, Hairston went down with a non-contact injury and was grabbing at his right knee before gingerly walking off the field with the help of a trainer. Some were fearing the worst, but earlier this afternoon it was reported that Hairston thankfully avoided a serious injury. It's an LCL sprain, and he could be back in as soon as 3 weeks, so it sounds like he could even potentially be ready for their season opener on September 7th. And sure, it is a bummer that he has to miss so much valuable time during his first training camp, but the fact that he avoided a season-ending injury has to be a major sigh of relief for Bills fans. They've already been dealing with a slew of injuries through the first week or so of training camp, so I'm sure they'll take this news all day, every day. Next up, the Bengals parted ways with running back Zack Moss today, releasing him after just one season with the team. Moss signed a 2-year, $8 million deal last season and was in line to potentially be the RB1 after Joe Mixon was traded to Houston. But sadly, 8 weeks into the season, a neck injury, pretty serious neck injury, landed him on IR for the rest of the year. From there, Chase Brown took over the backfield and racked up over 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns. Bengals offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher even said recently that Brown will be one of the focal points of Cincy's offense this year. They also brought back Samaje Perine in free agency after he spent last year with the Kansas City Chiefs, and they added Taj Brooks in the 6th round of this year's draft, so the writing was kind of on the wall for Zack Moss, especially coming back from that injury. Earlier this spring, Moss actually restructured his contract, and his release today leaves behind around $1.9 million in dead money, freeing up about $1.25 million in cap space for the Bengals. And let's stay in Cincinnati here because the story of the day is the man himself. Defensive end Trey Hendrickson finally ended his holdout. Sort of. He turned it into a hold-in, showing up to Bengals camp today. He didn't actually practice and basically just hung out and worked with some teammates. I'll talk about that in a second, but this is similar to Micah Parsons, who's also holding in while he awaits a new deal from the Cowboys. The team is out there running drills today, and he's just posted up on the side. A quick aside, but Adam Schefter reported yesterday that Micah Parsons is, quote, further away from a deal with the Cowboys now than he was in late March. So that, too, is a very interesting situation that we'll have to keep following. I'm assuming as the market continues to rise, you have Micah Parsons wanting more and more money, and the Cowboys are not liking that, but it's their fault because they keep waiting. Jerry Jones, get it done. Anyway, back to Trey Hendrickson in that situation. With him showing up to training camp today, people are seeing it as a good faith gesture in order to spark negotiations with the team. He seemed pretty engaged throughout practice, interacting with teammates, and we could even see him coaching up the rookie Shemar Stewart a little bit, who very recently finally signed his rookie deal. I'm sure the front office is pretty happy seeing those two out there on the field together, and I'm sure both of them are stoked to be out there, even though Trey isn't actually practicing. Being a resource and mentor for the young guys actually played a role in him showing up, according to Trey himself. And I'm sure it also feels good not to get fined $50,000 for every practice he misses anymore either, as he's now up to over $450,000 in fines between missing mandatory minicamp and then 7 training camp practices. Trey is hoping to make that all back and then some, though, in the form of a new multi-year extension. The question on everyone's minds is, of course, when the heck is that going to happen? Well, talks are continuing to take place between the two sides, but when speaking with the media today, Hendrickson said that nothing has really changed in terms of where they are at in the negotiation process. He did say there is a common goal between both sides to get a deal done, and the fact that he's there in person can only be somewhat of a positive sign, at least. Clearly, he's invested in the team. He wants to help the young guys out, and he emphasized that he doesn't want to be a distraction in any way, even though I think we're a little past that at this point, but hey, what can you do? Once again, though, Trey made it clear that security is something he values, which is what this whole thing has really been about, the amount of guarantees. He wants a higher amount in his contract, something the Bengals front office has been unwilling to give him, which reportedly caused negotiations to break down last week. Adam Schefter appeared on the Pat McAfee show on Monday and said that the two sides are off by about $6 to $10 million in terms of guaranteed money. I am very curious to see what kind of money Trey brings in if and when a deal gets done, especially after we just saw TJ Watt become the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, making $41 million a year on average on this new deal that won't expire until he is 34. Watt is turning 31 in October, while Trey is just a couple months younger, and after posting back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons, leading the entire league last year, by the way, I don't think he would be crazy to want to be around that number, 41 or so million, or maybe even Myles Garrett's 40 million a year. TJ Watt also got a whopping 108 million guaranteed of the $123 million extension he signed, so roughly 88% of it. Will Trey Hendrickson's next deal be similar to that? I highly doubt it, given the team that he's negotiating with, but you guys got to let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. When do you think a deal will actually happen, and how close to TJ Watt's deal do you think Hendrickson's actually ends up being once all is said and done? Next up, John Schneider is going to be sticking around as the GM in Seattle for a little while longer. He and the Seahawks agreed to a 4-year contract extension that's going to keep him as their president of football operations and GM through the 2030 30 draft. Schneider became the GM back in 2010, and after Pete Carroll was fired following the 2023 season, he gained the title of President of Football Operations, and with that, he was given final say over all football decisions. Through the first 15 years of his tenure, the Seahawks have been to the playoffs 10 times, appearing in 2 Super Bowls and winning 1. It really should have been 2 if Pete Carroll would have given Marshawn Lynch the damn ball. Either way, it's an impressive resume for Schneider, and while the Seahawks haven't made the playoffs the last 2 seasons, they still finished with a winning record both years. Mike McDonald is heading into year 2, but they had some major changes to that roster. Geno Smith is in Vegas. Sam Darnold is now their QB1. DK Metcalf is in Pittsburgh. Jackson Smith-Njigba is now their wide receiver 1, with Cooper Kupp being added in free agency. Even their starting tight end, Noah Fant, was just released last week in a move that freed up nearly $9 million in cap space. So they've really overhauled that offense, and I'm excited to see how they look in 2025. And then if you're an absolute football junkie and need a little bit of it in your veins, I got some good news. The Pro Football Hall of Fame game is taking place tomorrow night between the Detroit Lions and the LA Chargers. It's usually a very ugly, low-scoring game every year as hardly any of the starters play, but if you're fiending for some football, then tune into NBC tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central. You'll get to see Trey Lance go up against Hendon Hooker. Woo! I might watch at least 5 or 10 minutes of it, but hey, that's all I got for you guys today, and with that, I'll see y'all next time.